July 15, 1944, 0617 hours. Western approaches to Villers-Bocage, France. The hedgerow country sat under a layer of pale morning haze that softened the outlines of every tree line and recessed road. The air felt heavy with moisture from the night rain. Steam lifted from the churned earth where tank tracks had cut through the damp soil. Allied infantry from the 30th Infantry Division moved slowly along narrow farm lanes bordered by dense bocage walls that stood nearly 3 meters high in some sections. These thick barriers shaped every firefight. They masked German movements, distorted sound, and forced engagements into tight fields broken by sudden long sight lines where an enemy rifle or machine gun could dominate the ground. Private Thomas O'Malley walked near the front of 1st Platoon's lead file with his rifle slung low and his jaw clenched in quiet irritation. The platoon had been ambushed 3 times in the previous week by German marksmen who fired from unseen angles that reached out to nearly 300 yards. Each contact ended the same way. The return fire from the platoon scattered wide. Shots kicked dirt far from the enemy's hidden nest. The Germans withdrew before mortars could be called in. Casualties mounted, and the men grew tense every time a hedgerow bent into an open meadow. O'Malley was 26. His hands carried the rough memory of his years inside a metal fabrication shop in Ohio where agricultural machinery moved from blueprint to finished steel. He had worked on cutting dies, guide fixtures, alignment jigs, and hardened internal components for harvesters. Precision mattered. A cutting-edge 1 mm off true could ruin a line of parts. A misaligned guide fixture created jams that cost hours. He had been the one foreman called when a machine cut sloppy patterns. He understood steel. He understood how small geometric imperfections multiplied into large performance failures. That background followed him into war. What frustrated him now was not the Germans as much as the rifles in Allied hands. The M1 Garand was reliable and rugged, but the barrels varied. Wartime mass production solved quantity problems but introduced inconsistencies no one could correct in the field. He knew that a small variance in bore diameter or an uneven rifling groove produced unstable bullet flight beyond 200 yards. He had measured such problems in his former workplace with dial indicators and gauge pins. Now he saw the same issues play out in firefights where missed shots cost lives. 2 days earlier, during a short halt near a stone farmhouse riddled with shrapnel scars, O'Malley examined his own rifle during downtime. He held the weapon steady in soft daylight and studied the bore with a small inspection light. He noticed a rifling land near the muzzle that showed more wear than the others. It created a slight imbalance in bullet engagement. That imbalance matched what he felt during recoil. The rifle vibrated asymmetrically during firing. A uniform barrel produced a clean, centered impulse. His did not. He could not ignore the flaw. As the platoon prepared to resume movement, O'Malley walked behind a broken barn where the remains of an old farming scythe lay in weeds. The blade was cracked at the base but the steel was hardened and of high quality. The curvature of the blade gave him an idea. The radius approximated a shape he once used to align cutting tool edges in a fixture. If he removed a small section, shaped it with a file, and ground an edge to a controlled profile, he could create a crude rifling reamer. Not something to cut new grooves, but something to subtly recondition worn ones. That night, while the platoon bivouacked in an orchard, O'Malley worked by dim light under a poncho. He shaped the scythe fragment into a narrow tool with a controlled taper. Every stroke of the file followed a measured rhythm. He checked the angle by touch. The steel held its hardness. He used a small strip of cloth with abrasive paste scrounged from a motor pool kit to give the fixture a final polish. The result looked rough but functional. He tested the tool inside the barrel with minimal pressure. He rotated it in slow, controlled arcs to recondition the high wear land. He knew the risk. Altering a rifle without authorization violated regulation. If he misjudged even slightly, he could ruin the barrel. If he succeeded, he could tighten the bullet's engagement and reduce dispersion at extended ranges. The first chance to test his work came at dawn near a junction west of Villers-Bocage. As the platoon advanced toward a hedgerow gap, automatic fire erupted from a concealed MG-42 nest 280 yards away. The enemy crew had perfect defilade. Their bursts cut through foliage inches above the platoon's helmets. The squad took cover behind a shallow ditch. Return fire cracked across the field but scattered wide. One rifleman emptied nearly a full clip before a single shot struck anywhere near the nest. The machine gun suppressed them with precision bursts that bracketed their position. The squad leader shouted for smoke to mask movement. O'Malley pressed his cheek into the mud and measured the angle. He judged distance by the volume of the gun's echo. He steadied his breathing. He knew the flaw in his rifle was corrected enough for a realistic attempt. He shifted into a supported position against a fallen branch and waited for the next burst. The muzzle flash flickered through a break in the hedge. He fired 3 rounds in measured cadence. The recoil felt different, centered and cleaner. The shots landed tight. The first struck the left edge of the firing slit. The second forced the gunner's assistant to duck. The third hit the feed cover, shattering the crew's rhythm. The enemy fire faltered for the first time in minutes. The squad noticed the change. A rifleman shouted that someone finally had the range. O'Malley fired again. This time the round struck the gunner. The MG-42 clattered. The assistant tried to pull it back, but another shot forced him down. The squad leader ordered a push to the right flank. They advanced in short bounds while O'Malley kept the enemy pinned. The field opened enough for a grenadier to lob a fragmentation grenade into the nest. The explosion silenced the position. The platoon secured the junction with minimal additional casualties. After the fight, the squad gathered in a small circle while catching their breath. The squad leader asked who had hit the nest. O'Malley stayed quiet until one of the riflemen pointed at him. The leader frowned at O'Malley's rifle and noticed soot marks near the muzzle that suggested recent barrel work. He asked what O'Malley had done. O'Malley hesitated before explaining the worn rifling land, the makeshift tool and the reconditioning process. The leader listened without interruption. The men exchanged looks. None had ever heard of anyone adjusting rifling in the field. A mortar man laughed in disbelief. Another soldier asked if such a thing was even safe. O'Malley kept his explanation brief, laying out the mechanical principles with steady confidence. He said he had restored uniform engagement and eliminated a variance that caused lateral dispersion. The squad leader knelt, sighted down the barrel and ran a finger across the steel. He said the results spoke for themselves. The squad leader reported the incident to the platoon commander during the midday halt near a sunken lane bordered by thick blackberry growth. The commander listened with a raised brow as he cleaned his pipe stem. He understood the value of accurate rifles in bocage fighting, but he also understood regulations. Unauthorized modification of weapons created liability for the entire chain of command. He ordered O'Malley to present his rifle for inspection. The examination took place beside a Sherman tank parked under chestnut trees while mechanics checked its track tension. The commander looked through the bore with a small light. He saw no gouges or irregular surfaces that suggested dangerous damage. He asked how O'Malley ensured that his reconditioning was even. O'Malley described his background in tool making. He explained how he controlled pressure, how he tracked rotational reference lines, and how he estimated the material removal in microns rather than noticeable depth. The commander shook his head in disbelief, not because he doubted the soldier, but because such skill was rare in a private. He told O'Malley that this kind of modification remained unofficial. He told him that if the method worked, he could continue on a trial basis for his own rifle only until further notice. He warned him that any failure that produced a catastrophic malfunction would shut the experiment down. That afternoon, 1st Platoon moved toward a cluster of farm buildings near a crossroads where intelligence reports indicated a reinforced German outpost. As they advanced, they encountered another long hedgerow overlooking a sloping pasture. The platoon halted when scouts spotted movement beyond a large oak stump. The enemy had positioned riflemen with clear sight lines to the approach route. As the platoon prepared for contact, one of the riflemen from O'Malley's squad approached him quietly and asked if he could check his barrel. The man complained that his shots always drifted high right at 200 yards. O'Malley asked if the man trusted him to adjust the rifling. The soldier nodded and said he trusted results, not regulation. O'Malley took a quick look with the inspection light. He saw a shallow burr near the muzzle caused by repeated cleaning with an improperly sized rod tip. The defect was small but enough to disturb exit pressure. With no time for full reconditioning, he made a minor correction using the Scythe blade fixture. He rotated the tool with controlled force, adjusting only the damaged land. The process took less than 2 minutes. When he finished, the rifleman tested the weapon against a distant fence post. The round struck close to the exact point of aim. He fired again. Another tight impact. The rifleman looked at O'Malley with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. Minutes later, German rifle fire erupted. The first shots cracked over the platoon as they hugged the hedgerow line. The enemy held elevation advantage, firing downhill from a concealed position near a line of hay bales. Their opening volleys struck the ground in front of the American line, precise and controlled. The platoon leader ordered 2 squads to flank left. O'Malley's squad moved with purpose, crouched low under the bocage canopy. As they reached a break in the hedge, they engaged targets silhouetted on the ridge. The rifleman whose weapon O'Malley had corrected fired 3 rapid shots. Each round hit close to the same point near a German marksman's cover. The enemy withdrew from the exposed ridge, unable to maintain fire superiority. The squad pressed the advantage. Automatic rifle bursts from a bar team pinned another group of Germans as O'Malley advanced to a small knoll. He judged range at 240 yards. He saw 3 enemy riflemen retreating toward a stone wall. He fired 4 times. 2 of the rounds struck within inches of each other on the wall's edge. 1 enemy soldier slumped. The others broke contact. The platoon secured the farm buildings after a short but intense exchange. As they regrouped in the courtyard of a damaged cattle shed, word spread that 2 rifles in the squad had performed unusually well at extended range. Men approached O'Malley with questions. They asked how the tool worked. They asked what risks they faced if they tried it. They asked how much time he needed to fix their rifles. He explained everything without embellishment. He told them he could not cut new rifling. He told them he only corrected wear patterns and restored uniformity. He said he removed microscopic inconsistencies that altered bullet spin stability. He made no promises about perfect results. He only promised improvement where the barrel itself allowed it. Over the next 2 days, during short rest windows between patrols, O'Malley tuned 4 more rifles. He kept detailed notes on each barrel's characteristics. He measured angles by instinct and by the resistance felt through the tool's grip. His scythe blade fixture showed signs of wear but continued to function. He cleaned it after each use, applying tiny amounts of oil to preserve edge integrity. The squad leader monitored his work but did not interfere. He understood the morale boost this innovation provided. The men felt they had an edge in a landscape that punished every miscalculation. By July 17, the company fought toward a strategic orchard that German forces used as an observation point. The approach route was narrow and exposed. German riflemen fired from camouflage positions in the upper branches of apple trees, using elevation to dominate the American advance. The orchard was the kind of terrain that magnified everything O'Malley feared about inaccurate rifles. Shots fired upward at small silhouettes required confidence in barrel performance. Without that confidence, troops hesitated. Hesitation cost lives. The company commander ordered 2 squads to push toward the orchard's southern boundary while suppressive fire pinned the German positions. O'Malley's squad moved along a shallow ditch, crawling through tall grass. As they reached a point where the ditch bent toward the orchard fence, machine gun fire erupted from a position hidden behind stacked crates. The rounds sliced through branches and ricocheted off tree trunks. The platoon took cover behind a collapsed section of fence. The squad leader asked for accurate fire to drive the Germans from the treetop nests. O'Malley positioned himself behind a small mound of dirt. He sighted upward at a faint silhouette among the branches. The range was close to 270 yards with a slight upward angle. He exhaled, steadied his rifle and fired. The bullet hit within a narrow margin of the target. A figure slipped from the branch and crashed through foliage. The squad's rifleman whose weapon O'Malley had corrected followed suit. His shot struck bark inches from another German position. The treetop rifleman retreated deeper into cover. As the orchard fight intensified, a second machine gun opened from the far end. Its bursts forced the squad to flatten behind the fence. The squad leader asked if anyone could hit the far nest. O'Malley measured the range mentally. It was near 300 yards. A difficult distance with standard rifles in this environment. But with corrected barrels it was possible. He adjusted his aim, compensated for the angle and fired 2 shots. The second struck the crate stack, creating an opening. A bar team shifted fire through that gap. The combined effect broke the machine gun's field of fire. The enemy crew pulled back. The platoon surged forward, clearing the orchard row by row. The orchard fight marked a shift in how the company viewed O'Malley's work. The improvements were no longer abstract mechanical adjustments. They produced measurable battlefield results. The platoon commander sent a quiet note to the company CO describing how a single soldier had increased effective engagement range for an entire squad without new equipment or external support. The CO understood the implication. In bocage country, where the enemy often fired from hidden positions and vanished before supporting arms could respond, any increase in rifle accuracy changed tactical outcomes. Still, he hesitated to formalize anything that deviated from ordnance protocol. Battle conditions forced improvisation. Paperwork caught up later. Until headquarters issued clear guidance, the CO allowed the unofficial tuning to continue at the platoon level with minimal visibility. That night, the company bivouacked in a field bordered by tall hedgerows and scattered with broken farm tools. Some men dug shallow foxholes while others leaned against hay bales during perimeter watch. O'Malley sat near a small lantern under a section of tarp as a light drizzle fell. He sharpened the scythe blade fixture on a fine stone salvaged from an abandoned workshop. The fixture showed uneven wear along its edge from repeated use inside steel barrels. He trimmed the profile carefully. The tool's shape mattered. A few degrees off-center would produce poor results. As he worked, two riflemen approached with quiet steps. They asked if he could inspect their rifles before dawn. He agreed. One of them carried an M1 with visible muzzle wear from years of overcleaning. The other had a barrel that vibrated unusually during recoil. O'Malley explained that tuning could help, but some barrels were beyond correction. Steel fatigued. Rifling degraded. He promised to inspect both weapons in the morning. By sunrise he had tuned one of the rifles and rejected the other. The rejected barrel showed spiral wear patterns that indicated structural weakness. Correction risked failure. The soldier accepted the explanation without complaint. He said he would petition supply for a replacement. The tuned rifle, however, demonstrated measurable improvement during a brief firing test against a stone wall. The shots clustered tighter, striking within a narrow band instead of scattering across the surface. The soldier nodded in satisfaction. As the company prepared to move out, word from battalion headquarters arrived. The 901st Panzer Grenadier Regiment had reinforced positions north of the division's line. Their defensive arrangements included well-trained riflemen supported by mobile machine gun teams operating from fortified hedgerow positions. These forces had halted the advance of two adjacent American units. The company received orders to push toward a key lane junction that controlled road access into a deeper pocket of bocage terrain. This junction sat between two elevated fields that provided enemy marksmen with ideal sight lines. Intelligence suggested German riflemen at this location frequently opened fire at ranges exceeding 300 yards, far beyond the comfortable precision range of most Garens and field condition. The platoon knew what awaited them. Long-range engagements in hedgerow country favored defenders with stable firing rests and accurate rifles. In those conditions, barrel inconsistencies multiplied. As the company approached the junction, scattered rifle fire greeted them. The Germans fired from positions behind trimmed hedgerows shaped like natural parapets. The platoon leader ordered a staggered advance. O'Malley moved with the second squad along a shallow drainage ditch. The squad halted when a German marksman fired from an elevated knoll about 310 yards away. His first round struck the dirt inches from the forward scout's boot. The squad retreated into the ditch while the marksman fired again, adjusting with impressive speed. The German's discipline suggested he carried a precision-modified carabiner 98K, perhaps with selected ammunition. The squad leader pointed toward the knoll and asked if anyone had a chance of hitting him. The range was long. The angle was narrow. O'Malley gauged wind by observing the movement of wildflowers near the ditch. He steadied his rifle against a root. He knew the tuned barrel could manage this distance if he controlled every variable. He waited for the marksman to fire again. The muzzle flash revealed his position through a small gap in the hedge. O'Malley fired a single shot. The recoil felt centered. The round struck near the gap within a few inches of the target. The marksman shifted, likely startled by the unexpected accuracy. O'Malley fired again. The second shot clipped the edge of the firing hole. The German ducked out of view. With the marksman suppressed, the squad advanced toward a shallow fold in the ground that offered a protected approach to the junction. As they moved, two machine guns opened from concealed flanking positions. Their intersecting arcs forced the squad to take cover behind a pile of broken fence boards. Return fire from standard rifles could not dislodge the gunners. The platoon leader requested accurate shots on the right side gun. He wanted the gunners pinned long enough for a flanking element to maneuver. Two soldiers with tuned rifles moved to new cover positions. O'Malley crawled beside a large rock half buried in the soil. He angled his rifle through a narrow gap in the boards. The right side gun sat behind a mud wall with only a small firing slit visible. The distance measured roughly 280 yards. He fired once. The round struck just below the slit. The second soldier with a tuned rifle fired at the same point. His shot hit slightly left. The combined pressure forced the gunners back. Their fire weakened. A bar team used the window to move along the left flank and establish suppressive fire. The platoon advanced in short bursts. Grenadiers crossed the final 20 yards under covering fire and threw two fragmentation grenades into the gun pit. The machine gun fell silent. With the right flank neutralized, the platoon turned attention to the remaining machine gun. This one proved more dangerous. The gun sat behind a reinforced hedgerow cutout with sandbags and a stable firing platform. Its bursts swept the field with alarming precision. The gunner fired controlled 3-round volleys that struck within tight brackets of each moving soldier. Casualties threatened to mount. The squad leader asked again for accurate fire. O'Malley and the other tuned riflemen adjusted position along a drainage embankment. They needed an angle that exposed enough of the gun position to disrupt the gunner's concentration. O'Malley focused on a faint shadow behind the sandbags. He saw the barrel oscillate during recoil. He fired one shot. It struck the sandbags near the barrel. The tuned rifleman fired next. His round hit slightly above the slit. The German gunner shifted to avoid concentrated fire. The brief gap in firing allowed the platoon to dash forward another 20 yards to a low ridge. From that ridge, a light machine gun team brought fire on the enemy's flank. The German crew withdrew. The platoon secured the junction minutes later. After the fight, the company CO called for a short meeting near a foxhole line while medics treated wounded men. He addressed O'Malley directly. He said the tuning work had produced measurable tactical advantages in multiple engagements. He said he would not yet authorize company-wide modification, but he would allow platoon-level use for select marksmen. He said the battlefield demanded precision wherever possible. He told O'Malley to document his process in a simple field notebook to preserve the method for future reference. The CO also warned him again. Any catastrophic failure, any barrel rupture, any accidental injury from modification would end the experiment. That evening, as the company established a new defensive perimeter, several riflemen gathered around O'Malley as he wrote notes under dim lantern light. They asked if the method could become standard practice. O'Malley said mass tuning in field conditions required skill most soldiers did not possess. Precision metalwork demanded patience, exact pressure control, and understanding of barrel geometry. One mistake could ruin a weapon. On July 18, a dense morning fog settled across the bocage, muting sound and reducing visibility to the length of a small pasture. The company received orders to push east toward a network of hedgerows used by German observers to direct mortar fire. These observers were known for their accuracy. They used pre-measured distances on field maps and corrected fire with small adjustments that punished any American movement across open ground. Battalion intelligence believed that eliminating these observers would reduce casualties across the entire sector. The platoon advanced slowly, using the fog to avoid early detection. The first contact occurred near a narrow sunken lane. A German rifleman fired from an elevated hedgerow slit, hitting a runner who carried dispatches between platoons. He collapsed in the road. The squad dragged him to cover while the rifleman fired again. Standard return fire scattered. The angle was steep and the firing slit small. O'Malley and the tuned rifleman moved to a position behind a low rock outcrop. They tracked the slit through the fog. O'Malley fired once, adjusting slightly low to account for the rising mist. The bullet struck the edge of the slit. The second rifleman fired and hit bark close to the same point. The German shifted, exposing himself briefly. O'Malley fired a second shot. The rifleman dropped out of view. The squad advanced and reached the lane with reduced incoming fire. As they moved deeper into the hedgerow system, they encountered resistance from 2 German rifle pairs positioned to create crossfire. Their opening volleys were tight and disciplined. One American rifleman fell after a single shot struck through a gap in the hedge. The company could not call mortars without better target location. Visibility remained too low for artillery observers. The platoon leader ordered flanking movements. O'Malley's squad moved along a parallel hedge, crawling on elbows through damp soil. When they reached a vantage point, O'Malley identified the faint outline of a German rifle position about 250 yards away. The enemy rifleman held his weapon steady on a wooden rest. That explained the precision. O'Malley steadied his rifle against a tree root and waited for the rifleman to fire again. The muzzle flash flickered through the fog. O'Malley fired a single round. It struck the wooden rest near the stock. The German jerked the rifle down. The tuned rifleman fired next, hitting close to the firing hole. The German pair fell back behind the hedge. The platoon used the opening to advance to a better firing position where a bar team suppressed the remaining rifles. By midday the fog lifted. The company approached a broad meadow bordered by 2 converging hedgerows. Intelligence indicated that German observers operated from a camouflage dugout behind the left hedge. As the platoon prepared to enter the meadow, scattered rifle fire erupted. German marksmen targeted the forward scouts with remarkable accuracy. Each shot struck within a tight group around their positions. The scouts pulled back, reporting that the observers used long sight lines created by the meadow's narrow width. The platoon leader studied the terrain. To reach the dugout, they had to cross at least 50 yards of exposed field. Without suppressing the marksman, casualties would be heavy. He asked for accurate fire from O'Malley's team to disrupt the German positions. O'Malley rose to one knee behind a slight mound. He could barely make out a faint shape through the hedge gap. He judged distance at nearly 320 yards. He inhaled once and fired. The recoil felt centered. The rifle's vibration ran clean through his shoulder. The round struck the hedge a few inches below the target. The tuned rifleman fired next. His shot struck slightly left. Combined pressure forced the marksman to pull back. A third shot from O'Malley struck the mark as the German shifted position. The marksman fell behind the hedge. With the immediate threat reduced, the platoon pushed forward. Halfway across the meadow, a second marksman opened from a concealed pit. His shot hit the ground inches from the platoon sergeant's boot. The sergeant dropped behind a patch of thistles. The marksman fired again, adjusting with frightening speed. The squad took cover behind a slight rise. O'Malley scanned the hedge line. He saw a bird lift from a branch at the exact moment the marksman fired. That gave him a point of reference. He shifted his aim and fired. The shot struck bark near the hidden nest. The marksman flinched, exposing a sliver of his helmet. O'Malley fired again. The round struck metal with a sharp ring. The marksman slumped backward into the pit. With both marksmen down, the platoon advanced to the dugout entrance. Engineers moved in to clear the structure. They found field maps, range tables, and observation notes that confirmed the outpost played a key role in German mortar coordination. Destroying it reduced indirect fire accuracy across that section of the front for the next several days. That afternoon, the company established temporary defensive positions near a crumbling stone farmhouse. Its walls bore deep gouges from previous artillery strikes. The men rested under scattered shade while supply runners distributed ammunition. The platoon commander approached O'Malley with a notebook and asked him to explain the tuning method in detail. He said he wanted the notes preserved in case O'Malley was wounded or reassigned. O'Malley outlined each step of the process. He described how he inspected the bore, identified where patterns, and determined which rifling land needed reconditioning. He explained how he used controlled pressure to avoid altering barrel diameter. He listed the risks associated with overcorrection and the importance of maintaining a clean edge on the scythe blade fixture. As O'Malley wrote, several riflemen watched. They asked whether the method could improve even a new barrel. He said new barrels rarely needed correction unless damaged during handling. His focus remained on restoring uniformity to worn barrels. He reminded them that the process demanded precision and patience that could not be rushed. A single misjudgment could degrade accuracy or create dangerous pressure spikes. During the evening meal, an officer from Battalion Ordnance visited the company perimeter. He carried a clipboard and a set of calipers. He had heard unofficial reports of field barrel tuning and wanted to see it himself. The CO introduced him to O'Malley. The ordnance officer inspected several tuned rifles. He noted the improved shot grouping based on after-action reports. He also expressed concern. He said barrels were designed with specific tolerances. Unauthorized surface modifications could jeopardize safety. O'Malley explained his method with measured clarity. The officer listened with increasing interest. He examined the scythe blade fixture. He admitted that the tool's improvised design surprised him. Its profile resembled certain low-pressure reconditioning tools used in machine shops. He said the method remained unofficial, but he would not prohibit its use as long as results continued and no failures occurred. After the inspection, the ordnance officer pulled the CO aside. He said O'Malley possessed rare skill for a private. He suggested that if the company survived the Normandy phase, O'Malley might be considered for reassignment to divisional maintenance or marksmanship development. The CO declined the suggestion. He said the platoon needed O'Malley more than any workshop did. The officer accepted the explanation and returned to headquarters. As night fell, the men settled into defensive positions. The air carried the smell of damp earth and distant cordite. O'Malley sat quietly near the hedgerow line, cleaning his rifle with slow, deliberate strokes. He checked the bore again. The reconditioned rifling land maintained uniform shape. He understood the tuning improved grouping, but he also knew that extended firefights would accelerate wear. Barrel life in bocage combat was short. He planned to make further minor adjustments when needed. He placed the scythe blade fixture back into a cloth pouch and tied it closed. The next day brought clearer skies. The morning light exposed the broken geometry of the bocage. Every hedge line looked like a fortified wall. Every meadow created fields of fire that favored defenders. Battalion ordered the company to advance toward a ridge system that overlooked a key supply route. German forces had used this ridge to disrupt convoys with accurate rifle fire and well-coordinated machine gun bursts. The terrain ahead promised long-range engagements. That meant the tuned rifles would again play a decisive role. As the platoon advanced along a narrow farm track, the first German rounds cracked across the road. A marksman hidden behind a reinforced hedge fired 3 shots in rapid succession. Each round struck within a hand width of the lead scout's helmet. The platoon dropped into a shallow ditch. The marksman fired again, this time hitting the dirt inches from the squad leader's boot. His precision suggested a selected barrel rifle with a steady rest. The platoon leader crawled to O'Malley and pointed toward the hedge line. He asked if the tuned rifles could reach that distance. O'Malley estimated the range at around 300 yards. The firing gap was small and partly obscured by foliage. He steadied his rifle against a stone and waited. The marksman fired again. The muzzle flash revealed his position. O'Malley squeezed the trigger. The round struck the hedge a few inches low. He corrected and fired a second shot. The round clipped the edge of the gap. The marksman shifted. The tuned rifleman beside O'Malley fired next. His round struck bark on the left side of the slit. The German withdrew deeper into cover. With the immediate pressure reduced, the bar team crawled forward and fired a burst at the gap. The marksman retreated fully. The platoon advanced to the next hedge. As they pushed toward the ridge, they came under fire from a German machine gun positioned on a terraced slope. The gun crew used elevation to maintain precise lines of fire. Their opening bursts forced the platoon into scattered depressions. Dirt and stone fragments flew with each impact. The squad leader ordered suppressive fire, but most of the squad's shots scattered high or wide. The terraced elevation disrupted depth perception. The machine gun fired again, bracketing the ditch where 2 riflemen had taken cover. O'Malley crawled to a vantage point beside a half-buried wheelbarrow. He studied the gun nest. The sandbags created a narrow firing gap. The range was close to 260 yards. He steadied his breathing. He fired 1 shot. It struck a sandbag directly beneath the barrel. The tuned rifleman fired next and hit slightly above the slit. The combined pressure forced the gunner to pull back. A third soldier fired a smoke grenade toward the nest. The smoke drifted slowly uphill. Under its cover, the platoon moved toward a small ravine that offered a protected approach. When they emerged on the flank, a grenadier threw a fragmentation grenade into the nest. The gun fell silent. Once the lower slope was secured, the platoon advanced toward the crest. Machine gun fire erupted again, this time from a concealed strongpoint built into a hedgerow recess. Its bursts swept laterally across the ridge line. The squad took cover behind a set of broken fencing planks. The platoon leader wanted the strongpoint suppressed so the rest of the company could move. He asked for precise shots. O'Malley studied the narrow gap between 2 sandbags where a glint of metal flashed each time the gun recoiled. He fired once. The shot struck close to the opening. The tuned rifleman fired and hit slightly to the right. The German gunner reduced his firing rhythm, adjusting to avoid the incoming rounds. The reduced pressure allowed a flanking element to crawl forward along a shallow depression. They reached a point where they could throw 2 grenades over the hedge. The explosions neutralized the strongpoint. When the ridge was finally secured, the company regrouped near a set of abandoned carts. The CO reviewed the engagement with the platoon leaders. He noted how accurate rifle fire had shaped the fight. He said enemy marksmen had lost their advantage when confronted by tuned barrels. He praised the squads for using precision rather than volume to suppress threats. He again warned that the tuning would remain unofficial. He said he would submit a quiet report to battalion describing the field results without naming O'Malley directly. During the afternoon halt, several riflemen asked O'Malley to inspect their weapons. He tuned 2 barrels. He rejected a third due to severe internal wear that no amount of reconditioning could correct. He explained the risk of over-tuning to each soldier. He told them the method only restored symmetry. It could not transform a degraded barrel into a precision instrument. He said the key to performance came from uniform rifling engagement, not aggressive cutting. Later that evening, word reached the company that German forces were preparing a counterattack aimed at reclaiming the ridge. The terrain favored long-distance volleys from concealed hedgerow pockets. The company dug in along a reverse slope. They placed machine guns in staggered positions. Riflemen took cover behind roots and stones. The sky darkened. The air cooled. A sense of waiting settled across the line. At dusk, the first German rifle volley struck the slope. Their accuracy was immediate. Shots hit so close together that dirt kicked up in narrow clusters. The platoon leader shouted for controlled return fire. Most of the squad's rounds dispersed too widely to force the attackers to break cover. O'Malley positioned himself beside a fallen log and scanned the hedge line. He identified two flashes near a broken tree trunk. He fired. The round struck the hedge inches from the muzzle flash. The tuned rifleman fired at the same point and hit slightly higher. One of the enemy riflemen shifted out of the firing gap. Another silhouette appeared briefly. O'Malley fired again. The silhouette dropped from view. The enemy pressure eased for a moment. A bar team used that gap to fire a controlled burst across the hedge. The German rifle line fell back. Moments later, automatic fire erupted from a second hedge pocket. The burst swept the slope. Splinters and stones struck helmets and packs. O'Malley moved to another position behind a narrow outcrop. He saw a faint reflection in the foliage. He fired. The round struck the edge of the pocket. The tuned rifleman fired. His shot clipped a branch directly above the gun. The German fire slowed. Another American rifleman crawled forward and fired at the pocket. His round struck deeper into the foliage. The enemy gun fell silent. When the counterattack faded, the ridge remained in American control. The company secured the area and prepared for night watch. The CO walked the line, checking positions. He stopped near O'Malley. He told him that his work continued to produce results. He said the company's survival during the counterattack depended on that accuracy. He reminded him that the method still had to remain unofficial. He said he would continue to protect the practice as long as outcomes justified the risk. That night, O'Malley cleaned his rifle again. He checked for anywhere inside the reconditioned land. The bore remained uniform. He pulled the scythe blade fixture from its cloth pouch and rubbed a thin layer of oil across its surface. The blade had become more than a tool. It was a lifeline. He knew the battles ahead would demand more precision. He understood the cost of failure in this terrain. He prepared for adjustments at dawn. The ridge fight changed battalion perception. Reports showed that companies which managed to place accurate rifle fire on German marksmen suffered fewer casualties and advanced more effectively through hedgerow terrain. The CO submitted his field notes to battalion headquarters. He described the improved grouping of tuned rifles, noting how the modifications allowed ordinary riflemen to challenge long-range shooters who normally held every advantage. He avoided technical language and focused on results. His report circulated quietly among staff officers who debated whether improvised barrel tuning might be formalized. Nothing came of the discussion. Ordnance protocols were slow. The war moved too fast for bureaucratic solutions. As the company moved toward the interior of Normandy, the frequency of long-range engagements shifted. German forces retreated toward better defensive positions. O'Malley continued to tune rifles when needed, but the urgency diminished. He kept his scythe blade fixture wrapped in its cloth pouch. He used it sparingly. The blade carried the marks of each engagement. Small scratches. A worn edge. Dull streaks from abrasive paste. It had become a quiet symbol of the company's struggle to survive the bocage. On July 22, the company approached a ridge overlooking a road network used by retreating German units. The enemy resisted with sporadic rifle fire but without the precision of earlier fights. O'Malley participated in the advance with the same steady focus he carried from the beginning. His rifle grouped tightly even at extended ranges. His shots struck clean. The men around him noticed. They trusted his work. They trusted the tool they joked about but relied on when the range stretched past 200 yards. By the end of July, the company reached open terrain where the hedgerows thinned and long-range contacts became rare. Mortars and armor dominated. Rifle accuracy mattered less in open fields where maneuver and fire support shaped engagements. The CO called O'Malley aside during a rest period. He told him his work would not be forgotten. He said the company's ability to push through the hardest sections of bocage depended on a handful of soldiers who refused to accept equipment limits. He told O'Malley he would recommend him for commendation. He also told him that the scythe blade method would likely never appear in official manuals. The war had too many innovations born from necessity. Most vanished after the fight ended. When the Normandy campaign concluded, O'Malley's contribution faded into unit-level memory. His tuning method remained known only among the riflemen who saw its results. No ordnance officer wrote a formal study. No training course adopted the technique. But the men who survived the hedgerows spoke quietly of the private who restored life-saving accuracy with a blade pulled from a broken farm tool. They said his work changed engagements measured in yards but remembered in lives. After the war, O'Malley returned to Ohio. He resumed work in a fabrication shop. He kept the scythe blade fixture in a drawer beside old micrometers and worn calipers. He never displayed it. He understood its value. It was a tool that belonged to a specific place and a specific moment. It served its purpose. It saved men who never learned his name beyond the squad roster. The bocage consumed many stories. His survived in the firing lines where tuned rifles hit marks that should have been missed.